Hi, welcome everyone to the Change Collective podcast, where we love bringing you inspirational stories of social leaders. Today, it is our joy, our honor, our absolute privilege to have with us Sherin Ali. She is the global CSR lead at WNS Cares and probably one of the few people that I've met who has a passion for this, both from a career perspective, but also has lived this walk herself in her own life. Thank you so much, Sharon, for being here today. Let's start with your journey. I think your personal and professional journey has been incredibly inspirational to me. And I'd love for you to share a bit of where the seeds for social work started, for caring for people started. We'd love for you to share that.
Thank you so much, Ajit. It's my pleasure to be here today. Basically, my name is Sherin and I'm the lead CSR for WNS Cares Foundation. My life journey, of course, has been very sweet, and I would always like to reminisce and take pleasure in what has happened throughout my journey. So I was born in Visakhapatnam, a small fisherman's village at that time. Now it has grown. I was born in a business family, and throughout my childhood, it was a lot of wonderful experiences where I would accompany my father and my mother to a lot of these camps where they would meet with the underprivileged or the marginalized sections, and they would either donate or there were medical camps. So my uncle was a doctor and there were medical camps. From childhood, it had always been a part of my DNA to be visiting these things. And slowly that took shape somewhere in the mind and it kept along in my journey. I graduated in commerce. I also graduated bachelor's in education. I started teaching, and that was another phase in my life where the joy of giving, teaching is one of the biggest joys that I could have experienced. Though it was a short stint because I got married after 2 years and then I had to go to another city. And then I had my children and I started living the housewife role for some time. But the destiny had it different. At the age of 40, like a midlife crisis, was when I was offered a 100% scholarship to study in the USA to do an MBA. And even though I was a master's in commerce, I grabbed at the opportunity because doing an MBA in the US, though I had never dreamed of it, but it was a pleasant thing that came my way and I picked it up and I went to the US. And of course, the cross-culture learning was great. After which I came back to India. I started my journey in Pune then and joined multinational companies in the roles of marketing because that is what I had done in my study in the USA. But as destiny has it, 5 years later in the company in WNS, they selected me to become the CSR lead. And true to the feeling and true to the backgrounds, it turned out that was my passion and it really fired my belly to the utmost. And today when I sit here with all that experience and I talk to you, I'm so happy with the journey that happened.
That is beautiful. I love that journey from being a teacher to a global CSR lead at WNS. I remember in our previous conversation, you had this really amazing story of your daughter's act of teaching kids at home. Would love for you to share some of that backstory.
Yeah, definitely, Ajit. That was a great phase of our lives. My daughters and me, even though we never realized that something like that would come our way, one fine day, my maid was cooking in my house. She was in tears and I asked her what happened. Her name was Paru. And she said, my children are not faring very well in school and I'm very worried because I want to somehow ensure that they educate so that they don't live a life like I have lived. And I just turned to my daughter. She was in her first year psychology, Ferguson's College. I said, can you help these children? Can we do something? And she said, why not? Let me try. So bang, from the next day, Paru had her children coming, her son and daughter. And Afreen started teaching them. It's in this very room where I'm sitting right now. And slowly, Afreen started liking it. She used to look forward to coming back from college early because these children would come in at 5:30. And it became like a routine. And slowly and steadily, we found that there were other maids who started approaching us. And they said, ma'am, can we also send our children? We are also facing the same thing. So the numbers started growing. From the first 2 children, we went on to 7 and then we went on to 18 and then we went on to 50 without even realizing that an Afreen was dedicating 2 full hours every evening and the children were just being engaged to start understanding the love of education because it was not possible to teach so many children their subjects or make them learn anything. But we were trying to inculcate the love of studying. And then we slowly realized that they started getting interested in studies. They started going regular to school. And believe me, Ajit, just this year, Afreen had come. She's married and she's got a baby. She had come in January and we had called all the children. And every time Afreen comes, the kids come. They're now somewhere beyond. So they have got jobs. And almost 8 of them are pursuing their 12th standard. And one is also married and he's got a full-time driving job. So it was so fulfilling to see the journey that even those 50 children who were associated with us had grown to be something so well nurtured in life. It was an absolute journey. And while this was happening in my house, it is around the same time that I got the offer of becoming the lead CSR. So it was like it was mirroring my career and my home situation where I was doing the exact thing as a lead CSR, that is education for underprivileged. And at home, the same thing was happening and we were educating the underprivileged. So that was something very uncanny, but it was a destiny and we were just enjoying it.
Nice. Feels like the quotation charity begins at home really came true there, right? I think beautiful to see that. Nice. I love what you said, right? What started at home, carried on to the workplace, and it was almost an extension of that. Would love to hear with WNS, how has been the journey in the CSR space? And I think you've really grown the program. Would love to hear what you all are doing, just the incredible work that you all are doing.
So 2015 was when I joined as the lead CSR for WNS Cares Foundation. And if you are aware, the law came in 2013 and things had not yet kicked up. The CSR was not yet very serious for the Indian industry. So even WCF was in its nascent stage where we were reaching out to schools, doing some basic programs. But of course, the WCF mission had always been to educate beyond academics. So while we were going to the underprivileged school, we were not going for the regular curriculum bit. We were going and trying to shape those lives beyond academics. So that is where we were doing computer literacy. And then after I joined, the journey surely accelerated thanks to the law that came in place. Nowadays, the companies are like becoming conscious, especially the ESG, where the environmental and social governance. So the social governance becomes a big part of the CSR. So in 2015, when I joined, we were working with 22 schools. Today, we are working with almost 286 schools. And the plethora of programs has grown so much. Apart from the computer education, we have done reading programs, we have done self-defense programs, we have done cyber security programs, we've done wonderful programs like Respect Matters and Happiness Literacy. So it has gone way beyond, and I'm so proud to have been a part of the journey because I have seen the entire evolution of that journey.
That's amazing, right? To hear not just the width of the program, but also the breadth of it. When you think of one thing unique, what you had shared with me earlier about WNS programs is how involved the employees of WNS are in these programs. Could you talk through just how do you keep people motivated? How do you keep people coming to volunteer? Because volunteering isn't an easy thing, right? They're doing it over and above work. They're doing it sometimes on a weekend. How have you built that culture of volunteering at WNS? What are some things you all have done? What's working for you all, especially with volunteers?
That's a very good question, Ajit, because a lot of the scenario, especially in the CSR, is where companies are donating money for programs and projects that are being implemented but are not being really handheld. And WNS has been a forerunner over there because what we believe is while we are serving the community through the monetary benefits, being there in person is something which is very important. And the entire organization is constantly being appraised and being made aware that as a company, we are there, we are serving the community, and we want each one of you to give your valuable time. We do not ask for any kind of donations from the employee. All we ask for is their precious time. So for doing that, and as you know, WNS is like, 60,000 plus employees. So what we do is got a robust system of broadcasts, which we do twice in a week. We've got an MIS system, which enables the employees to enroll for a volunteering program. Once they enroll, they start getting the details of the program. We also enable their travel. So whenever the volunteers have to go for a particular activity, we enable their travel. So it becomes easier for them. We also train them. For example, if we are having a program in a particular month, say art and craft or maybe communication skills and all, we also create training material so that it is given to them and they know what exactly to do. Then they also do special activities. So a lot of times you would have seen like team bonding activities happen for offsites, but in WNS team bonding activities happen as volunteering. So they go as a team and they do one big activity, say like painting the school or some cleanliness drive or some kind of a one big activity where they make a difference of that day in the child's life. So these are some of the things that we do, and we engage almost 25% of the population in active volunteering. And we also have one very powerful program called e-mentoring, which is like an each one teach one. So every employee gets connected with one child from our schools, and then they mentor them throughout the year. So if the child has got any difficulties or anything that they would like to have advice on, they're able to reach out to our employees. So that is how we keep the employees engaged. And last but not the least, we have reward programs. So at the end of the year, the best volunteers get to meet the CEO and the top level leaders and get recognized by them. So that is of course part of it, but most of the volunteers have told us that is not the end goal. We love it when we go to the school every time. So somewhere we feel that it's trickled into the DNA of the company.
That's brilliant. I love that. Spending time with a child sometimes is as joyous as spending time with your CEO. And I think holding that in balance is beautiful as a volunteer who gets to do that. So you're saying the volunteers actually go to the schools that you all work. So on ground, their support is not just to any project, it's actually to the projects that you all work at. That is extremely inspiring. And it's great when all stars align towards the same goal. You have greater impact. Excellent. Could you talk more about the schools? How has it been working in the school ecosystem? I'm sure you have also learned a lot just being in the education space, working with, you said 200 plus schools, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'd love to know more about that because education is the future of our country, right? And so building education is the long game, like you said earlier, like how you said, we taught these kids when they were these age, but 10 years later, we came back and we saw that education is that long game. It's really building the future. How has it been with working in schools, education? What was some of the learning?
Generally, the programs that we do in the schools, we do it through NGOs so that the need assessment is created by the NGOs and we know exactly why we are going to that school. We know that school is lacking infrastructure, as in the digital infrastructure, the kind of support that a child would require over and above the academic support. Because of that NGO, we get a need analysis. And then when we step into the school, we align with the principal and the management of the school saying that these are the programs that we would like to do with your school. And we would like, and we take their entire concurrence on ensuring that the computer lab is part of the timetable of the child.
Nice.
So it's not like a one-off or it's not like an option for the child. We make it like a part of their curriculum so that when the child comes to the school, by default, they are going into the computer lab, they are learning that computers. By default, they are going into the library that we have created, they're picking up the books, getting the joy of reading, getting insight into so much more than what is actually required of them. So this is the way we work with the schools. And we also track the attendance improvement in the schools. So it's not we do a program and then we just implement it and then we draw back. So we track the attendance, how is the attendance improved, how are the grades improved, and the volunteers who go. So this is also very interesting. What we do is, so we've got different clients, right? Every client process adopts a school. And then they go for volunteering and they monitor the school also. They also monitor the activities of the school and how the events are happening. So it becomes like a double-pronged thing. So it's the school management, it's the WCF team, it's the NGO, and it's the volunteers. So it's coming in from all sides and the program becomes only so much strong. One thing I'd like to mention of your Ajit and like how I told you the story in my house, the children came this and then they went there and they got employed. In WCF also, we've got 2 programs for the youth where we upskill them for jobs. So we have created the training modules, fast track training modules for you to bridge the industry and academia gap.
Nice.
So we train them and then we put them up for jobs. So that is one more thing that we are doing.
Nice. Excellent. And the last time we spoke, you had mentioned about WNS Fellows. Did I get that right? That
Yes,
program. Yeah.
Oh, that's a fantastic program. I think we will need an entire different podcast to talk about that. But let me touch the tip of the iceberg today. What we have done is the WNS as a company, as a corporate, has taken up the responsibility to ensure that we are sensitizing the youth who are coming up in their management studies or in their IT, their engineering studies, and in their top learnings, where they start aligning a purpose with their education. Now,
Nice.
what we generally saw was like the education pattern. So now I will not be talking about the underprivileged, I'm talking about the entire
Spectrum. Yeah.
the focus of education has always been very narrow in the term that you need to earn money. Because of the different pressures of the society, the child also fails to think anything beyond that. So we have introduced a program called Vibrant Fellowship. Now what we do is we go to these colleges and these students and we pick up a batch from 8 to 10 colleges. We create a batch of 100 to 120 students and we take them through a 12-week program in which basically the attitude of business or the attitude of any commercial activity is trying to be shifted to a stakeholder approach, to an inclusive approach, saying that it's not only about shareholders, it's all about giving and it's all about success comes with that. And we've already completed one batch, Ajit, and we are into the second batch. And we are getting very good responses, not only from the college, but even the students. Because here they are learning something which aligns to their passion.
Yeah.
Everyone might have a different passion, right? Everyone might have a different passion, and how and why are they not following it is the question. And that is the question we're trying to break, and we're trying to put in the responsible governance, the power of purpose, and these are the things we're trying to implement. And of course, the huge dream is to get the workforce, to get the youth think differently in the coming times and change the world.
Absolutely. And you never know that some of these may go on to work in companies, work in the CSR space and really create impact, start their own social entrepreneurships. And I think that's very inspiring, right? Adding that element to whatever your core skill, whatever your core business is, and then adding that is brilliant. I've very rarely actually heard of a company starting a fellowship, right? You have the Gandhi Fellowship, you have TFI, you and I starting our own fellowship. Like, we completely believe that there is a huge space in the social space to teach people how to manage better, to lead better in the social space. And that's what we're looking to do. So I love that. And I wish you all the best, especially with it. And I know that from a lot of the things you all do at WS, this has a special place in your heart, right? Every time I talk about I think you get a little more excited, as passionate as you always are. And I love that.
Yes, very close to my heart, and I love that program. And I would love to see where it goes.
Beautiful. Excellent. When you look ahead for WCF, what are some of the key milestones you all want to achieve over the next years? What are the things you all are looking forward to, whether it's the schools you're working with, the volunteering, the fellowship? What are some key things you all want to look at going forward?
Yes, so we have picked up the mission to educate, empower, and enrich. We would like to stick to that. It is better to go deep rather than spread ourselves thin. Looking at the future, we definitely want to see a lot of collaborations. Because what happens is there is so much of money being pumped in through CSR. And there is a little blind spot as to if there is any duplication happening or is it going in the right direction. Because right now the studies are not it is too much of concentration in the urban areas. The rural areas are not getting benefited. And in case we collaborate, now, when I spoke about the WNS intervention, I spoke to you about the 4-pronged intervention where we want the NGO, we want the company, we want the volunteers, and we want the schools. And this is making the system very strong. But then if we want to spread wider, if we want to go to the places who really need, how do we take these things with us to those areas also? Again, we just don't want to be a donor or just give some book token, make some infrastructure and leave it. We want to get this holistic approach. So that is something that we will be definitely looking at and we will be aiming towards. And I somehow feel that collaborations are going to be the key, where different multinationals come together and pick it up as an idea. In fact, even for job skilling, the different multinationals and the different companies come together, recognize the lacuna, where is it required, and then formulate something together where we can then expound the entire thing and get the desired results. So these are some of the the dreams that I hold in my mind, and I percolated to WCF also. And I'm sure everybody is working towards it, and we definitely hope for a better future.
Beautiful. Love that. And I think it's good, right? You want not just for your organization to do more, you want as a collective, that as companies which really can create impact to come together, and I think that the whole is always great in the sum of its parts. I think that's really beautiful. Just switching tracks a bit, Shireen, very quickly. Firstly, if I could ask you, if you could talk to Shireen from 1989, right, about to start her now 30 plus year journey in career, motherhood, so much that what would you say to Shireen from 1989?
I would say one thing very loudly, Ajit, and that is to be fearless. There are a lot of times when we overthink, or then there are like some pulls, societal pulls or environment, anything that pulls us back, and then we just step back and we feel that the opportunity was lost. So I would tell myself, be fearless, and it's better to try and fail rather than not to try at all. So that is something I'll definitely tell myself very loudly and clearly. And I hope a lot of youth listening to that would just do things fearlessly and follow your passion.
I love that. And I think that has been a central message for you, right? The power of purpose. And I love that you're able to bring that out, not just as you, but you're able to take that to a larger audience in WNS, especially in the fellowship and in so many ways, right? Like through volunteering. I know you have found purpose. I'm sure hundreds and hundreds, thousands of employees at WNS would have found passion also. One last question. When you think of India, we're in a very unique state as a country where we're going. What would sort of your message to fellow Indians in this season that we're in? And I think we're really poised to an exciting future as a country. What would some of your key thoughts, your learnings from your journey be to people out there?
So again, I think, Ajit, it will be aligned to my base thought, where the power of purpose should be the drivers. We should not limit ourselves to saying that this is how much I can do, because third world countries, that is what somewhere we try and limit ourselves. We say, oh no, this is not possible for me. This may not happen. So let us break free of those shackles. We have, to a great extent, the youth today, especially the people who I interact with. Every time I go to a college, I talk to the youth. They come up with such brilliant ideas. They come up with so many, we wouldn't even have thought of them in our times. And they're the Gen Zs. What I would say in Hindi, you would call it kohora, or that the mist. If that mist could be removed, that it's not possible, and following our passion is not possible, is no more true. And you can be absolutely successful. It's not that it's not economically viable, or okay, people can talk, but when it comes to bread and butter, you need this thing. So I think the bread and butter also can become part of the passion. So I somehow feel that stick to it, strive hard, don't give up, and things will work out.
Beautiful. Love that. Thank you so much, Shireen, for being here today. I think it has been our absolute pleasure. I personally love your story, from being a teacher to where you're at today. The amount of impact you've been able to have personally and professionally is absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Shireen. And thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next week.